Hello and welcome back to the Shallow Proclamation with myself, Thomas, and my friend.
Paul.
And we're watching Boom, the third episode in the brand new series with Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson. I watched this a couple of days after it came out. Paul, you stayed up to watch it, is that right?
Yeah, I watched it at midnight when it came out.
Yeah, brilliant. So we're going to watch it again now and share our thoughts. So I don't know what you made of it, and I guess we'll find out as we go and when we reflect on it afterwards. But looking forward to jumping into it.
Control B. Returning to base following Grade 1 encounter. 2 survivors.
Now this has been filmed on one of those
20 minutes.
screens, hasn't it? So behind them, this is all actually projected in the room.
Oh, is that like how they did The Mandalorian and
It's
stuff?
exactly the same as the Mandalorian, yeah.
Right,
Because
yeah.
it's all Disney Plus, isn't it? So,
Yes.
or Disney money.
It's a clever idea because it gives the actors something to actually react to.
I think so, yeah.
So at this point, I was watching it and I was like, are they wearing dog collars?
Right, yeah.
It was interesting detail, and it
No,
obviously
I'd
becomes
seen-
quite important.
Yeah, I'd seen that mentioned before in advance that they had dog collars on, that they must be related to the... we had them in the Moffat era, didn't we?
Yes,
In like Time of Angels and stuff like that, the clerics.
yes.
This feels a little bit, that place where the girl is, feels a little bit sort of the new Star Wars universe-esque.
Yeah,
You know?
it might actually be one of the same sets.
Probably is, yeah. Now, I didn't know this, it passed me by, that this lady, the actress...
I
is,
recognise her. Who is
well,
she?
she's the new companion after Ruby Sunday.
No way.
But it's not this character, as far as I know. This is like a Martha Jones-esque thing where she played whoever it was in Army of Ghosts.
Or will they do a
Adiola.
Clara on it again? The impossible girl.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah.
It's not on general view.
So I hadn't really realised. I had seen pictures of the new companion.
Oh, that's really
but-
fascinating.
I guess I just haven't followed news as closely with Doctor Who in the last few years. I think life is just so busy now, and I've tried to avoid spoilers on the whole, so I haven't felt the need to seek out information. So I think I saw it announced, but I wouldn't have recognised her really. Already, compared to the first two episodes, I mean, the first story we didn't really like, did we? The second story we thought was an improvement. But the
Yeah.
setting here it's a very different feel and tone already.
Yeah.
Setting-wise, it reminds me a little bit of the beginning of The Magician's Apprentice. Is it that one? Was it called The Magician's Apprentice or something? It's not called that, is it? What was the Witch's Familiar and the first two episodes of season 10 or 9
Oh, yeah.
with on Skaro?
Yeah.
The Witch's Familiar and the other one, something else. I thought it was The Magician's Apprentice, but maybe I'm wrong.
Is that the one that starts with him arriving and then he finds Davros as a little boy?
Yeah, and the hand mines on the battlefield.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like that. Now, we got this lady again. Did you pick up on this?
I recognised her. Where's she from again?
It's the same woman, Susan Twist.
Oh, no way, it's Susan Twist again.
Susan Twist back
That
again.
is clever. That is clever.
Much more at the forefront of the episode this time.
Yeah, because I guess you didn't really see her face that well in previous episodes. It's a very disturbing concept, isn't it? Kind of handing over the decisions of life and death to a technology.
Yeah.
Feels
well,
quite
also,
prescient with the AI and rise of AI and stuff.
but also it's a nice comment on, like, at what point do the resources or the time it takes to make someone better outweigh the benefits, you know? So, and you can see in a world, you know, that it's a nice comment on, you know, at what point do you just say it's not worth helping someone?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And you can easily see with the kind of government we've currently got that they would be quite happy if the NHS decided to say you're not worth saving anymore, we'll just let people die. So it's a subtler comment than anything we've had so far.
Yeah, that's true. I think
Which is
Moffat's better at kind of doing it within the kind of allegory a bit more rather than doing it too on the nose.
So again, this all just looks lovely, doesn't it? I mean, it's visually the show is just as strong as it's ever been. Really, I don't think you could argue with that.
And I think Millie Gibson really nails this scene. I think this is the first time in this series I've been like, oh yeah, she can do this.
Right.
I buy her as a companion a lot more now.
Yeah, I think she's grown on me.
Why are you singing?
The Skyboat song. Like it?
Now, someone said there was some significance to this song, but I'm not sure. I can't remember what it is now.
It's not a beach.
I'll give it time. Everywhere's a beach eventually.
Okay.
It's a good line, isn't it?
I'm down. I'm about 10 feet.
Everywhere's a beach eventually.
4 fingers.
Okay. Vilengard. V for Vilengard. Biggest weapons manufacturer in recorded history, supplied all sides in all conflicts for the past 2 centuries in this sector. Had to deactivate one of these once at a lesbian gymkhana. Underwater for a bet, except it wasn't live and I wasn't standing on it. And I lost that bet. Sorry, wrong moment for the story.
Can't help feeling he's been a little bit careless. Stepping out onto a battlefield and
Yeah.
immediately doing this.
Oh, it's gonna be tricky.
It's gonna be a moment, yeah?
Uh,
Oh, Ruby, I'm sorry, I forgot. Your first time on a new planet. It hurts his stomach, doesn't
I love how he's in absolute peril and she's just like, oh, yeah, it's a planet.
Just having a moment.
Yeah. To be fair though, this is a bit of a plunged in at the deep end, isn't it?
Sure is.
She's got to have a moment.
That is a dead body. Compressed, somehow.
I mean, the fact it's got a very blatant eye on it.
Is that meant to be an eye?
I assumed it was an eye when I saw it. Like, it seems strange that everything else has been compressed, but there's just like an eyeball on the surface. But maybe I'm wrong.
Presumably
gross.
all the water's been squeezed out because she wouldn't be able to lift it if it had the same weight as a person.
That's true. Yeah.
With one hand, just like, here's a grown man.
6.732217 kilograms. I was
there
trying
we
not to
go.
show off. Throw it to me. Count of 3.
Okay, no way. I need something more rhythmic. I need a beat like a song. Sing the song.
The song.
The song.
The song.
Over the sea to
I mean, I'm not being funny, but a count of 3 is as rhythmic as a song.
That's very true. The lights on the mine are a nice visual idea to kind of build the tension, aren't they? When the lights make it all the way around, it goes off.
Yeah, that, and you can increase the tension, can't you, each time? So if it's getting closer, rather than if it was just a thing and you're on it and you don't know whether it's going to go off or not. There's no way of showing it's getting closer necessarily.
Exactly.
So, the one thing I thought, even on first watch of this, is that like I was a bit like, why is he as scared as he is? I mean, I know it's scary, but like it doesn't seem quite as doctory, like, you know, to be that distressed.
Yeah.
Given all he's done and been through. I don't know, but
Yeah. I suppose it is a bit of a pickle, isn't it? Because what can he do at this point?
Now there was a line there about the moon and the president's wife, and there's been talk about, there's been some references to old stories in a number of these episodes, just lines of things. I noticed that line when I first watched it, that something the Master had said, or Missy had said. Can't remember, there was something in other episodes as well where you go, oh, that seems like a reference to something.
Yeah, they like peppering it with little things like that, don't they?
The Vilengard algorithm.
The what?
Vilengard battle products are fitted with AI. The algorithm maintains a fighting force at just above the acceptable number of casualties. Keeps you fighting, keeps you dying, keeps you buying. Medical services optimize the casualty rate for continued conflict. War is business, and business is booming.
Nice use of the word booming.
Yeah.
Go with the title. That again is a clever concept, isn't it? The kind of commercial aspect of war.
Hello? Hello up there?
Yeah, there's some neat ideas in here.
Yeah.
I'm looking for my daddy.
It's There's a Black Mirror-esque-ness,
Yes, there is, isn't there? Yeah, I was thinking about that.
which I think is also going to be something that comes up in a couple of episodes' time, something similar.
This is Ruby, and my name is the Doctor.
The Doctor isn't a name.
Yeah. And I'm not even a doctor. People don't use...
I like when he does those little awkward laughs. Yeah, it's quite an interesting part of his character.
Signal your understanding!
I understand, please.
Read them and understand them. You have no authority here, Jackie Weaver.
My name is Mundy Flynn. I'm an ordained Anglican Marine.
What's an Anglican Marine? Since when was the church an army?
Since most of your history, you've been living in a blip.
The design of this is similar. Reminds me of the War Machines.
Yes, that's good.
Also quite similar to a machine that appears in the Colin Baker era as well. So
Right.
I don't quite buy the child in this, if I'm honest. Like the fact, like that she could be that switched off from what's going on around her. I think she needs to be younger if they wanted her to be as stupid as she seems.
Ruby Sunday, calendar age 3082 years.
Now that's interesting, isn't it? Is that because she's from, that's how far into the future it is, or is it because it's something about her?
Right, yeah. I assumed it was because they were into the future, but...
Yeah, so did I. Yeah, because calendar age implies when we... and there's snow again. This is a nice little bit of foreshadowing for whatever's going on, isn't it?
There's nobody else here. You declared war on an empty planet. There are no Kastarions in the mud. They're not in the fog. There are no Kastarions. Just the algorithm, maintaining an acceptable casualty rate in the face of nothing at all. You are fighting your own hardware and it's killing you at just the right amount to keep you buying more. I mean, most armies would notice that they were fighting smoke and shadows, but not this lot, Ruby. You know why? Because they have faith.
Shut up!
Faith! The magic word that keeps you never having to think for yourself. Just surrender, Mundy. Just stop. And it's all over.
Prove it.
What, seriously? Now you need proof. Faith Giao.
Only the bishop can declare a surrender, and the bishop will need proof.
Oh. John Francis Vater, father in AI.
Yes, sir.
I need you to download yourself into the Vilengard battle computer, find proof that the planet is uninhabited and that the casualty rate is hardware driven. Send it to the scanner in Mundy Flynn's hand.
Apologies, that is not possible. I am not connected to the network.
No, but the ambulance is, and the ambulance is connected to me, and I am connected to you. Shut up and Google.
That is against my digital protocol, sir.
Listen to me. However little is left of you, you are still a father. Dad to dad. You never let them down, right? Ever. To the end, right? Dad to dad. Dust to dust. Am I right?
So he can't. He's just an AI simulant.
I'll be back. Do your teeth.
How much of the countdown left?
3 minutes, maybe.
Thoughts and prayers.
So some quite nice writing there, wasn't there? Some quite good, quite powerful.
I mean, it's... this is up there with Space Babies.
Yes.
That kind of quality writing.
Why were you looking for me?
That's the new gold standard.
Kanto.
I literally saw someone say Space Babies was a 9 out of 10 episode of Doctor Who, and I was watching. I was watching a reaction to Human Nature, Family of Blood.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this is amazing. This is 9 out of 10. This is 10 out of 10 Doctor Who.
Yeah.
How you'd have to be completely delusional to believe that Space Babies is anywhere near a 9 out of 10 Doctor Who. I mean, you have to be broken in the head, like, to believe that. Like,
yeah. Well, people are entitled to their opinion, aren't they, Paul?
Yeah, they're entitled to be wrong.
Some opinions are just wrong.
I mean, you can enjoy Space Babies, that's fine, but to say it's 9 out of 10 Doctor Who, you're like, what on earth are you on? You're smoking something and I want some of that, whatever you're on. Like,
yeah, you've got to expect better, people.
yeah,
the show can be so much better than Space
Have some standards.
Now, when I was watching this, was one of my sort of critiques from maybe a directing point of view, or maybe it's the writing, but I think it's more the execution. Like, this guy just dies very suddenly, doesn't he? It's like, oh, what the heck? What just happened? It kind of blows up, and then he's immediately a hologram, and you're like, oh, Kanto.
I've been racking my brains to try and remember what this reminds me of, these canisters, and it's just come to me. In primary school, we used to have these cylinders with like a blue cap. They could be probably different colours, but they were yellow with a blue cap at the top. And when you turned them, it had the different times tables on. So like you had like 7 times table, and you turn the numbers, and the numbers would change. You know? And that's what it reminds me of, one of those times tables things.
That's amazing.
You can tell that this is a planet not run by the Tory government, because we'd never get that many ambulances turning up that quickly.
Yeah, I think that's a very astute point, Paul. I think they cast her about double the age that they should have cast.
Yes. I don't know how old she is. But yeah, she needed to be a few years younger, I think, to make some of that feel believable.
Yes.
Where's my daddy? I'm not living without my daddy. And I'm not leaving you, Munchkin.
6.
So where's my dad? This is again, you're like you're old enough to understand. Like
Yeah. This is nicely done, though.
Why are you sorry?
Because he's gone now. I know that Mondy's gonna take really good care of you.
Silly. He's not gone. He's just dead. He's not gone.
That is right. That is exactly right. You keep the faith, Splice.
I thought you didn't like faith much, Doctor.
Just because I don't like it doesn't mean I don't need it. Monday.
Bye. I will be popping in every now and then. Fish fingers and custard is my favorite. Okay, come on, Ruby.
Yes, sorry, I'll rush off like this one.
I kind of see that as Moffat just like writing a little signature at the end. It was like, here's something from my first time as full-on showrunner for Doctor Who.
Yeah.
But something stays.
I found that a bit quite funny. The fact that he's facing the other direction.
Yeah. It's like, it's a bit sort of Return of the Jedi, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Who are you? Rey? Rey who? Rey Skywalker? I like how he almost delivered that to the camera, but it wasn't quite the annoying fourth wall break.
Yeah.
I think that's better, because there's always been a sense in Doctor Who that the Doctor's slightly speaking to the audience, but I don't think you need to make it so overt that he's literally. But as we said at the end of the last one, maybe it's going to be some big thing they're building. Ooh.
Well, there we go.
Nice. And I'm quite excited for this next one, but we'll chat about that when we watch it.
Alright.
Paul, what did you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely, at this point in the season, it's definitely the strongest by far. I mean, it's vastly...
Whoa. Better than Space Babies?
I mean, Space Babies is definitely sort of 9 out of 10 Doctor Who, clearly. So this is kind of, what, maybe 9.1, you know. Only fractionally better. No, I mean, this is streets apart, isn't it? And I mean, I can understand some people saying like not a lot happened in some ways, but it's more of a character piece, isn't it? And anything that tries to set itself in one location, you know, it's a bit like Midnight. Midnight sets itself in one location. Or if you've ever seen the film The Cube, which is basically one set, you know, just with different lights. You know, or you take something like Heaven Sent, you know, where you've got, I mean, you've only got one actor, you know, really for most of it with Peter Capaldi. It takes a lot to pull that kind of thing off, and I think actually they do a really good job of it. I don't think it's Moffat's best ever story.
Sure.
It's certainly I didn't come away like and be like, wow, I've been blown away by this, to excuse the turn of phrase there. But I definitely thought it was still a strong story. And I think, you know, it raises, you know, the question about the cost of treating someone and keeping them alive. You know, that trade-off between the value of their life, the cost it costs, you know, to do that is a nice little comment on things. Particularly when you do have places, you know, like so that you can see how that's not so far removed from where you could end up as a society.
Yeah.
You know, it's close enough. It's not so. It's a little bit removed from where we are, but it's not so far that you couldn't see capitalism going so far that way. That, you know, what's the cost of treating you is too much compared to the value of keeping you alive.
Yeah.
You know, so I think there's questions. You know, that's interesting. I think I probably need to think more about its dealing of the issue of faith. It feels like a very. I felt it felt like a very negative portrayal of faith. Okay, the assumption seemed to be from the off. Faith is blind faith.
Right. Yeah.
And the reality is, of course, that like actually, I think, you know, faith. You know, we're both Christians, and actually, I would say that faith is something that is a lot more thought through. I mean, there is such a thing as blind faith, obviously. But actually, for a lot of people, it's actually a very deeply thought through process that involves a lot of thinking and wrestling. And it feels like a slightly lazy caricature to be like blind faith. And also as well, like there's that element of the fact that everybody lives by faith in something. You know, even the most person who considers themselves to be the most rational minded person has lots of things they take on faith and are assuming by faith. You know, I'm presuming Stephen Moffat, you know, would believe in human rights, which is a faith in itself, because, you know, in what sense can you say that us blobs of molecular matter have significant value, you know, those kind of things, inherent value. So all kinds of things like that. So sometimes when I see things like that, it strikes me as a little bit lazy, and perhaps that someone writing that hasn't actually wrestled. It tends to be just a caricature, and they've not wrestled with any of the real big questions behind stuff like that. And also, I think for me that, you know, it's interesting that the Doctor, you know, when you consider as well, if you took the planet as a whole,
yeah,
faith in whatever form you call it, in whatever faith you want to look at it, is by far the dominant worldview on the planet, some form of faith. So to have a character in the Doctor, the Doctor is supposed to be a character who embraces all. It feels like he's very dismissive of a whole group there of people, and it comes across as quite arrogant and dismissive, which feels a bit like a kind of a very Western-centric arrogance there of like, we're advanced and we understand things, whereas people who don't think like we do are a bit stupid.
That's interesting.
But, you know, I'm sure that will put the cat amongst the pigeons. But
it's funny that it's Anglicans specifically as well.
Well, yeah, and I mean, in fairness,
Anglican churches, don't we?
Yeah. Not that I consider myself particularly Anglican,
sure.
you know, as a thing. It's not at all how I would really identify myself. But So, I mean, I don't have an issue from that point of view. I think you can certainly do blind faith. There is certainly a story around blind faith. But I think, for me, it just feels that feels like a slightly lazy caricature, when actually you could easily argue there's a lot of people day by day who live by blind faith, but they're not religious at all.
Yeah. It's slightly historically misguided, isn't it? Like the line, the line when she's like, Ruby's like, what, Anglicans like committing warfare, and the doctor's like, oh, you've just been living in a blip where Christians aren't, violent, going on crusades, kind of thing. But it's like, fair enough. There's a lot of church history that is very uncomfortable, where the church did use the sword to advance. But like the 20th century is the bloodiest century, and most of that was dominated by like secular, like communism. So the idea that religion causes wars is a big sense that people have, kind of intuitive.
A lot of people have a blind faith in that idea without having bothered to actually look into the history of it, because as particularly the Crusades are a great example there of we look at the Crusades with horror because we are so Christianized. Because we see the idea of inflicting terror on others by the sword as something abhorrent. But actually, that was just business as usual for most empires of the day. Business as usual was, how did the Romans expand their empire? How did Alexander the Great expand his empire? How did the Persians and the Babylonians and the Assyrians, how did all these massive world powers spread their power? It was through the sword, and that was just seen to be what you did. We look at that now, and we feel that is a terrible thing to be doing, and we react against that kind of thing, much like we react against someone like Putin, because we see that kind of thing going on, and we say that's not how it should be. But that's because we only view it that way because we've been so heavily influenced by the worldview of faith, Christian faith, that has spread out from that. It just feels, again, it feels lazy to me, that side of it. But
there's maybe a hint that Moffat has some degree of acknowledgement of that with his line at the end of the Doctor saying, "I don't like faith, but I need it."
I need it. Yeah.
And there's maybe I think we're halfway through the episode when he did that first line of like, faith is just, this blind thing used to justify stuff. I was like, oh, come on, Moffat. But at the end, there was a slight sense of, oh yeah, maybe the Doctor is actually reluctantly a believer in things that are greater than himself. Maybe that's part of it. He is a bit of this maverick figure who he thinks he can put everything right, but he actually has to go sometimes, oh yeah, there are things I don't understand. And maybe that reflects Moffat himself as well. But it is interesting, isn't it? And something I was thinking was, imagine if he'd written that episode, but instead of Anglicans, they were imams. You can't imagine that happening, can you? So I think he sort of knew that if he did it with Anglicans, it wouldn't cause as much controversy as if he'd done a different religion. It's sort of almost an easy target in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't have in one sense, I don't have an issue with it, but it's a little bit like okay, fine. You go, yeah. It's but I think if anyone was interested in thinking more deeply about that, I'd say talk about that, when he said like it's a blip in history, like the peaceful side of things and so on, and religion, and there's a sense there that faith just leads to war. I mean, I think you if you want to think more about those things, then you should probably go and check out people like Tom Holland, the historian, and his material on sort of his book Dominion and stuff like that. And
I think it's actually like religion has caused something like 5% of all wars or something.
Yeah, I had 7% in my head. Yeah, that's the figure. When it's one of those things that people say, isn't it, all the time? Like you say, people just throw out, they say, all wars are caused by, or majority of wars are caused by religion. And actually, when you kind of historically look at things, you go, Not sure that does add up, but of course, it's easy to take that on blind faith.
Yeah. But you did make the very good point. If you take this episode on its own terms, and the sort of faith that these people are expressing is very questionable and problematic. So like the fact that they've placed their faith in this technological system to do the work of running the war for them, that is a real warning, I suppose, to society. It's like, are we going to put our faith in technology? Because if we do, the little guy will get ground in the gears, and people who need help won't get and get swept under the rug. And it's pretty scary.
And is the value of life a cost benefit analysis?
Yeah.
And actually that's very pertinent, because you've got places like Canada where, there is the sense that people can, that things like euthanasia are coming in, aren't there? But there are people it's been suggested because they've been depressed and they've been offered to end their life because they've got depression, and that's not. And at that point, you go, okay, well, where are we going to draw the line here?
Yeah.
At what point do you
poverty,
say
people have said poverty is a reason for euthanasia, and you're like, wow, really?
Yeah. So there's some big ideas in here, and see, this is what Doctor Who should do. But again, what it does well is that it's raised these kind of things without actually mentioning them particularly explicitly, which is where some of the previous era of Doctor Who fell down. I think that it was much too in your face. So I think there'll be lots of people who will have watched that episode and either enjoyed it or not enjoyed it for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
But will
dropped his notepad.
Yes, I dropped my notepad. But won't have come away like they won't even have thought about any of these things we're discussing, because it's not so overt. You could watch that and it's enough in the subtext.
Yeah.
To not really feel like it's been shoved in your face, and you have to have to go away and need to think about it. You couldn't get away from the end of, I can't remember what the story was called now, but the one with all the plastic in the Chibnall era, where it's like, oh, the birds are all full of plastic, plastic, and it's like, it's just so obvious at that point that it's just silly. So I think you see my wife's just driven in, car lights flash on my face. Somewhere where my car's parked. Yeah. The question I had was, though, how are they getting injured? Because they said they'd never seen them, and it's like, well, they must be fighting something. So that for him to have ended up blind, because it wasn't at the ambulance, and it is. I mean, there's the What are they fighting?
Yeah.
To be getting hurt, was it that the technology, the mines and the things were fighting against them? There's other weaponry that's out there, but surely they would realise that it's just their own technology that would kind of get rid of those. But I wasn't 100% clear on how they were getting killed in the first place.
Sorry, your video went so janky there. It was like 2 pixels at one point.
Brilliant.
But I think I got what you were saying there. Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think it fleshed it out fully, but the way I understood it was that, as you said, when they declared war on the empty planet and the casualty rate to begin with would have been 0, the technology then decided, well, we've got to start killing some of our own soldiers to kind of bring it up a bit. So with the fog and stuff, and maybe they were just getting fired at and they assumed it was the enemy or something.
Maybe so.
Actually, their ambulances. I don't know. But it is an interesting idea, isn't it? Of like the futility of some wars, and just it takes that idea to its extreme that they're not actually fighting anything.
Yeah. So I think I've really enjoyed it. Definitely the strongest episode so far for me.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's a tight concept, and it's fairly well done, isn't it? And did you feel that Gatwa managed to pull off the more serious tone?
Yeah, I think the real benefit of this is it gave both him and Millie Gibson a lot more to do in terms of weightier stuff. Whereas, in Space Babies, there was no weight at all. It's practically anti-gravity. And Devil's Cord there was better, there was more, but this had a much more serious edge, gave them something to work with. So, and that for me at least, that's what I want to see in my Doctor Who. I want to see the the way. I mean, yeah, we want it to be fun and enjoyable, of course, but I prefer overall the best episodes for me are always going to be the ones where you've got weighty, good stuff going on, weighty dialogue, weighty character stuff, alongside brilliant plots and things. So I think this is much more in that direction, at least. So, which is good after what I felt was a slightly shakier start for a new season.
Yeah, I think if there's a contender for a moment in which it's like, oh yeah, he is the Doctor, I think it could be for some of the moments in this episode. A few bits like I find a bit annoying. Some of the like the use of the word babes.
Babes. I knew you were going to say that.
With that. I don't know. I use it myself, but I don't really like it in Doctor Who.
Yeah, I think you use it.
I use it as a joke.
Though.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
and maybe he does as well. But yeah,
yes, yeah.
And when he called her Faith Gial,
yeah, I don't know how much of that is because how much of that is to do with Ncuti Gatwa himself. Because there's been a little bit of it's something I've been just thinking about recently, that people are saying, oh, we've got this new Doctor, here he is, and Ncuti Gatwa, obviously black man, queer, there are all these things. People saying, and now we're centering these things in the stories, and I'm kind of like, well, but why does the Doctor talk like? I kind of feel like sometimes Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor is Ncuti Gatwa.
Right, interesting. Yeah.
Like I can, and when people, so it's like if I was to become the Doctor, right, I wouldn't expect people to say, "Hey, we're going to be centering, the stories of Christian fathers of children with disabilities and things like that now because of that." I'd be like, well, no, I'm an actor. I'm coming to act a role. It's got nothing. My life has got nothing to do with the role I'm doing. Sometimes I feel that there's a little bit of that in this. That Ncuti Gatwa, it seems like his persona as his actual real life person, is very much what we see in the Doctor. But I might be wrong on that. But yeah, it's interesting because sometimes you see an actor in something and then you see them on a talk show.
Yeah.
And you go, oh wow, like they don't even talk anything like the person. You get in your head what they're like because they play a character, and then it turns out they're not even American. They're British or something. The accent is completely different, and they're so unlike their character. But I feel a little bit when I'm watching the Doctor in this Ncuti Gatwa, I'm seeing Ncuti Gatwa. Like I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
Well, thanks for watching, everyone. Let us know what you thought of Boom. That might be the deepest we've ever got on the show.
It might be.
Yeah. So thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll be back. What's the next episode called?
73 yards.
73 yards.
The whole 73 yards.
The Yardis. We'll be back for that. Goodbye.
See ya.
I'm just going to use the toilet quickly.
Yeah, me too, actually. Good plan.
See you in a bit.